we have a candid conversation with Niantic's Michael Steranka, Pokemon Go's live game director. Now, hey folks, I know you're probably used to seeing PvP discussions associated with my name these days, but I have much different topics to bring to your attention this time instead. After deciding to directly engage him dude to dude on Twitter earlier this week, Michael Steranka, director of Pokemon Go Live Game, reached out to me with a generous offer to have a chat about some of my concerns, and really community concerns. With the recent direction of the game we all love, Pokemon Go specifically, recent rollbacks to incense effectiveness and community hours to pre-COVID numbers. We had an open conversation that lasted about an hour and a half, and if I didn't have my own obligations I had to run to, I think he would have been happy to keep on chatting. And the door was left open to hopefully do so again in the future. Before I dive into anything, I want to express my gratitude for his time and candor. We may not see eye to eye on everything we talked about going in or even coming out, but he was completely open to anything I wanted to discuss about the game and very forthcoming in his perspectives while remaining receptive to my own differing viewpoints. So, there were several points that we clearly disagreed, but he didn't try to shut anything down or call any topics out of bounds. And while there were a handful of things we discussed that he asked to be kept in confidence, a couple of them, some potential positive changes they're discussing and even already planning to roll out, he encouraged me to share a bulk of our conversation, recognizing it may not all be what we want to hear, but that we wanted to make sure we all had the opportunity to hear without being buried in press releases and carefully curated interviews. I jotted down a lot of notes, some in a rather garbled, hurried manner, so bear with me as I attempt to piece this together in an intelligible form. Note that I am expressing most of the below as a neutral reporter, replaying what I was told, which again, I may not all agree with, but want to get the story out here. My opinions and thoughts will appear at times too, don't worry, so here goes. I like this picture from the first Go Fest, I believe. Backgrounds and perspectives. We started out with a little bit of getting to know you. I explained my own experiences of Pokemon Go as a month one player that has seen it all, from the early days of finding local players and forming community, as well as we all went on the grind together, before raids and PvP and all things to come. From there, welcoming raids to the experience, and then community days, which was an idea that came from Mr. Steranka himself, and other events in PvP and Go Battle League, and all that has come with it. I told him about the cookouts, local get-togethers I got to be part of, and sometimes help plan with my own local awesome community, and that was many, though not all of us, do from those early days. And yes, I certainly do miss what once was. I have been very fortunate to experience relatively easy transitions as the game has evolved, for which I am grateful, but recognize many have not been so fortunate. He told me first about his love for the Pokemon franchise, about seeing the excitement of the new game releases while living in Japan. His parents lived there for several years for work, and then coming to the United States and seeing the different excitement of releases there as well. He has a deep and abiding love for Pokemon in general. He then told me about his own early experiences in Pokemon Go and the connections he was able to make with friends old and new through the game. From grinding together to finding himself in the middle of a pickup soccer game with a friend as the past community day was winding down. Those connections and that sense of getting out and meeting together are very important to him as a key thing that sets Go apart from other games. As he put it, he saw the magic Pokemon Go events could have in people's lives and the unique opportunities it offers. He also expressed that a large part of what led them to roll out community days in the first place was after seeing the first year or so of the game, the sense of players that they were somehow sticking out. Ashamed to admit they were Pokemon Go in the middle of cities or wherever they were. The people were watching them and saying, people still play that? In short, the lull that Niantic saw creeping out after a while. Mr. Steranka wanted players to be able to gather together and go out in the town, all playing together, gathering together, enjoying the game, and each other for all to see, to give them social validation, as he put it. Michael also said his goal is shared by CEO John Hanke, who, according to him, developed Go partly as a result of watching his own kids playing video games inside and wanting them to get up and move and touching grass through a different gaming experience. The tenets of the game Mr. Steranka emphasized are exploration, exercise, and social interaction. A vision shared throughout the company all the way up to Mr. Hanke. Probably not a surprise to most of you, but he wanted to communicate that up front. So, that springboarded to our first topic, the broken vision. As has been reported elsewhere by people more in the know and more eloquent than me, Pokemon Go had to take a hard left when COVID hit, as we all did with everything else in our lives, really. A number of these changes admittedly drastically altered their vision for the game. Instead of the game that was different in encouraging people to venture outdoors and make new friends and grow experiences together, it became by necessity like any other game, and specifically with Incense, in his words, players never had to leave their home to have the full Go experience. I don't believe that at all. Some of these was fine, and they don't intend to roll back, such as a wider distribution and saturation of spawn points so people have more spawns where they work and live and rest, and free daily research tasks so streaks could be kept going and so on. But Incense, in particular, became a major sticking point internally as Niantic, as it is. As Mr. Steranka put it, from those internal discussions broke the vision of the game and things that set it apart. In their vision, it was counterintuitive and really counterproductive to be able to theoretically spawn everything you need without ever having to go anywhere, and with such frequency and ease. There was and is a strong sense that something important had to be lost. Again, just as a quick reminder, I'm just reporting what he was told, not trying to express, just trying to express fairly accurately without bias. Anyway, back to it. I'll put some bias of my own in there. I think that's a load of crap. You couldn't get everything you wanted out in Incense unless you're willing to spend like $1 million and have an Incense going 24/7, which no one did except for maybe content creators. Come on. All right, community days. I brought the obvious topic of community hours up rather quickly, just asking points. Blank, what had led to the decision to reduce hours? I noted pretty widespread criticism and doubt about the accuracy of reporting figures and player percentages, and specifically that it made, in my mind, a little sense to compare data from Whale-Rin and Luxray Community Day, two events that I noted were popular really only with my fellow PvPers, and that took place during cold winter hours for much of the world, therefore surely leading to lower participation numbers. The Bulbasaur Community Classic, which featured one of the most popular Pokemon in the entire franchise, and took place as we began to emerge from winter, and finally a 2+ year pandemic in many areas around the world, I specifically said it was like comparing apples to watermelons. I don't feel like I held anything back and was pretty frank in the skepticism shared by myself and many in the community. Mr. Steranka heard what I had to say and noted the following. What prompted looking into data in the first place was calls from community members, though he openly recognized it was not the majority of players in the community. Specifically, the feedback came from talking to some YouTubers and discussions on community Discord servers. Like I said, the content creators they're talking to are going to be skewing some of this information a little bit. Some discussions were the trigger to look into the data. As has been noted several places by now, the data says less than 5% of players play 3 hours. I guess I'm less than 5% of players then. And again, pointing out, I'm just reporting on the discussion here, folks. I asked about the idea of still having longer hours like the 6 we just moved away from, for more players to be able to hunt for the featured Pokemon around their working or unavailable hours, and having the touted bonuses available for just 2 to 3 hour periods during the larger window, possibly even at the very end of that window. I specifically recommended the end because he had noted that it was ideal to have communities still together as events ended, thus encouraging staying together to trade, chat, go grab a drink together now that the event has ended and they were still together. Mr. Steranka noted that longer periods work for established communities but aren't as good for bringing new players/communities. Okay, bringing in new players/communities. In other words, having a smaller window of total event for the total event increases the chances of non-established communities to find each other out and about playing the game at the same time. Other concerns with the longer windows were that 6 hours encourages those who do grind for 6 hours have inherent advantage over other players, more XL, more candy, etc. He firmly believes that having only 3 possible hours helps level the playing field. Meh. That said, Michael did say that such a model with 6 hours and having a boosted 3-hour block as part of that was the initial idea that had been discussed. The team was still mulling that idea, and he was expressly not opposed to it. He also wanted to stress that he and Niantic were not opposed to feedback and reevaluation, but would like people to give it a try in April and then give feedback on how they feel about it. He noted, as I kind of already knew going in that April and likely even May are already sort of locked into this model. But again, emphasize that they do want feedback on experiences, that this is still a trial, and they will be discussing potential changes / rollbacks after we see how it all goes. So no further changes forthcoming to April Community Day, as it has already been advertised, but do please compile your own notes on the experiences and have them ready to share. Niantic will be apparently wanting to hear what we have to politely say please. Alright, so other topics. I brought up the seeming conflict between encouraging getting out and walking for incense boosts, yet having boosts tied to lures during the community day of coming to Community Day, which decidedly do not encourage walking. He said that while it didn't come out in the announcements made so far that he had hoped it would, the lure bonuses during April Community Day will also come with a greatly increased radius of effectiveness for said lures. He said the exact radius distance is still being tested internally, but that it would be very noticeable, and the intention was to have them collectively cover large areas and benefit many players. Okay, that's pretty cool right there. I inquired specifically about the idea of having incense effectiveness boosts during community days or other events, as even those gathering in large groups are not walking, especially at a brisk pace. I always walk or drive, personally. As even those gathering in large groups are not walking, especially at a brisk pace, all the time as we stop to catch, chat, and or have local barbecues and such, as we have in my own community before. He did concede that point as far as that type of gathering and play experience being sort of a blind spot in their encouragement of walking, and said that while this may not lead to a chance in incense necessarily, they have discussed ways to address this with perhaps more spawns or other ways to boost the experience. He said he would again take this idea back and try and marry their vision with real-life play experience. A bit off topic, but one that has been stuck in my craw for a while, I asked about a ready button for raids, at least for private groups, so that we didn't have to stand around waiting for 2 minutes every time, even when our party was all set. He chuckled and said he totally gets that and has had the same thing happen to him, but that, again, his concern was encouraging community play and bringing in new and detached players. That another frustration he had witnessed and experienced is having groups not only quick try and start a raid, but specifically exclude other players even when they arrived in time and requested the opportunity to join in. That those players are then left with a bad experience as they want to play but miss out. That said, while further conversations on this topic was something he politely requested remain confidential, he did say that this is something they are looking to address in other ways and hopefully very soon. I hope so. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not exactly encouraged to raid with people in my area. Like, I don't see when people are in the lobbies. I can't tell. If there is someone just waiting in there, then me just dropping in just leaves just two of us waiting there. And usually we can't get the boss down unless it's a really easy boss like Genesect or something like that. So I don't know. Them working on that would be a really big help. Other tidbits that I forgot exactly to fit in the conversation, but I wanted to point out, included that people who are getting a little bit outside their comfort zones can generate unexpected positive experiences. That they want the game and their observations of improving it to be data driven, and mostly definitely includes data from co-located play. And to reiterate that nothing from recent changes is 100% set. So, in conclusion, if folks were hoping our conversation would lead to wholesale changes, well, I'm sorry to disappoint. Honestly, I didn't expect that outcome personally. I'm just one voice, albeit a loud one of late, of many, and still decidedly not part of their partner program, wasn't offered, which is absolutely fine, and I didn't ask. Just having the rare opportunity to come directly to someone high up in the company from an invested and passionate perspective on behalf of my fellow players and have them open a dialogue was awesome in and of itself. I do hope that they can continue at some point, and while I wasn't able to change any minds or direction, I very much appreciate the open ear and honesty offered, even in the areas where we don't agree. Thank you, Michael, and I hope we can chat again sometime, and I do trust that you've taken some ideas that we discussed to heart, so I know I will be thinking on your explanations and that you will keep evaluating and welcoming feedback. I appreciate the chat. So, there we are, folks. As a reminder, they will be looking for feedback, so I strongly encourage to give it to them as events unfold, particularly April Community Day. I know I will certainly continue to raise issues as I see them. That's not going to change. I love this community and all the players in it so much to do anything else. But as Mr. Steranka and I were able to do, I only ask that we keep it civil, direct but civil. They're listening, and how we express our constructive criticism is nearly as important as the content of the criticism, and a soft word is much more likely to catch their attention, as my original tweet thankfully was able to. Looking forward, I hope. So, guys, any comments to videos that you are consuming and you have some feedback you want for Niantic, put it in there in the comments constructively. They are looking to improve the game, so give them that chance.